Of everything we do, right, nothing freaks them out more. The thing that they get most vapor locked about, and you can see their rage starting, is this volunteer army that's across the board. The whether it's the moms at the school boards, if it's folks going and volunteering and being election officials, or becoming on canvassing boards or election boards, or becoming poll workers or poll watchers, or all of it across the board, right? At every level. What they can't take is that, and the reason is they just don't have the enthusiasm anymore. You heard the Kornacki about the Hispanics, but it's all over. They just don't have, they have no oomph. There's no there, and they know that. Because they've lied to people, they've misrepresented to people, and now they've caused an economic inferno, okay, that they can't just gloss over anymore, and they can't kick the can down the road. They're going to try to do all that, but they can't. And you saw the Jamie Dimon, Steve Cortez's statement had a lot of wisdom. And Jamie Dimon and the elites, your betters, they're talking about a hurricane that's forming. Well, that hurricane is already ripping apart working class folks from around the country and all over the United States. It is. And they don't get that still. Because in the Hamptons, it doesn't matter, right? In the Upper East Side of New York, Upper West Side of New York, it doesn't matter. In Bel Air, California, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to these people. It's not really affecting them. It's affecting everybody else. And that's what, and Charlie Kirk is very perceptive in that, and remember, I keep saying, after November 8th, I think 10 days later, the debt ceiling. We have many, many, many hard decisions to make to save this republic, to save this country. And the way we're going to do it is buy-in. And the way you're going to get buy-in is you're going to have a frank conversation with the American people of exactly where we are financially, exactly where we are economically, exactly where we are geostrategically, right? Where we are sovereignty and all of it. And you're going to have to get buy-in because these are not going to, there is no magic wand. You know, Biden said, well, there's no light. No, there's nothing to switch. You could start to have incredible policy decisions now that need to be made. And when you sit there and talk about Build Back Better and all this, we're going to transition to clean energy. It's not going to be stable. It's all mindless mush. That's why I'd love the young woman that's up there on the at the podium every day. She's like she's a Zen master. You know, what's the sound of one hand clapping? It's, at least she takes it in the sense of the theater of the absurd that it is. That's what her answers, I think, are brilliant. I do think they're brilliant. Because if you look at the other answers they're giving you to the toughest questions, some of the toughest questions the nation's ever faced, it's redonkulous, okay? And you have Janet Yellen, that picture, if we can pull that picture from the article, you got a picture, you think about it. He's, you know, very few times, you know, Trump had the lowest. They had a chart the other day, a number of times that the Federal Reserve Chair had ever been over to because it's supposed to be independent, right? It's independently propped up assets so that the wealthy had the greatest transfer of wealth in the history of the nation under Obama, and the second time, right, after the COVID response because of the Fed. And by the way, in the $1 trillion triage, they just decided to create $1 trillion of cash, and they hit a computer, and it was done. Kind of nobody's authority, didn't bounce it off anybody, just did it. That's independent. Well, it's not really independent. It's owned by a bunch of banks. So it's like the bankers making a decision to prop themselves up. It's so absurd. When you look at the world, where the French poet I keep quoting, you know, the French poet from World War I, the Catholic who died in the trenches, he said, the most important thing is not to come back and report what you see. The most important thing in your life is to see what you see. To see what you see. Think about it. We got the one of the oldest and greatest civilizations on Earth is in the history of the Earth is enslaved by a bunch of gangsters. And we kowtow to those gangsters all the time. We're going to have another special this weekend about this coming war with them. As we've been talking, we're already at war. We're already at economic war, cyber war, information war. The kinetic part we may be sliding into. And it looks like, you know, we've had guys like Captain Fennell say we may not win that kinetic war. And this is not like Vietnam where, you know, we actually won on the field but withdrew politically. It's not like Iraq. You know, it's not about the valor, or Afghanistan, the valor of the American fighting man and woman, or did politicians stab them in the back. This could be one that you actually lose. I mean, really lose. You get like smashed. And it's potential. We have guys like Captain Fennell and the people we had on the first special that are experts in this. And they talk about my beloved Seventh Fleet, and they said, hey, don't think you're going to pull a miracle out like you did in World War II in the Pacific. You could actually get smashed. And this nation, I will tell you, is not psychologically ready for that. It's never actually lost a war as defined by like losing a war. What happens when you actually lose? And that's where we are. Ben Harnwood, I'm so proud of Ben in Rome, of what he's done, and particularly being so ahead of the Ukraine situation. Today, and if it wasn't so serious, we kind of kid it's kind of like being on Christmas Day, but it's so serious you can't be frivolous like that. But just one article after the other, from the Atlantic, from the Guardian, from things that are not Citizens Free Press and not Gateway Pundit, right? Not the War Room. This is from all your betters and the top intellectuals, the top defense specialists. Just across, as the same time, it's shown that we're at offensive war. We've joined the cyber war with Ukraine against Russia on an offensive basis. We are offensively at war with them on economics. And yet all these articles are coming out saying the Europeans are losing their appetite for this war quickly. Why? Because it's starting to have an economic impact on them. And God forbid that the Europeans would ever want to sacrifice things for their own defense. For their own defense. Did we not go back and bail out the elites in Europe in World War I when all the empires collapsed? And God, who cares about all the royalty? And the whole thing with the Queen. And give me a break. Please stop. Please stop. We did that before. The highest proportion of combat casualties were. We've done this. We've been there. We bailed them out in World War I. Then they wanted to do the League of Nations. We didn't do that, but we remember, people forget, we saved him from starvation. Herbert Hoover, the reason he became president, he went to Belgium and saved him from starvation. It was the first Marshall Plan. We bailed him out then. We saved him from starvation, from famine. That. And then in World War II, we're sucked into that. Right? And then we win that. And then, of course, with our allies, the Russian people, who took only 40 million casualties, and the Chinese people, who only took another, 30, 35 million casualties, right? They took the hammer blows. We were there with our valor and our constancy and our resolve and our weapons. And then we rebuilt it again with the Marshall Plan. And then, again, we took down the Soviets, and President Reagan come in after all that buildup. From 1914 to 1989, the whole one continual war, really around the Eurasian landmass, but centered on Western Europe and that part of it, right? And we're there all the time. Who's underwriting? Who's bailing it out? Whose kids are going to die? Whose kids are on Memorial Day? Whose kids are over in those cemeteries? Ben Harnwell's down there right at the cliffs over Anzio. Who's buried there? Americans. Who's buried at Normandy? Americans. They're British and Canadians, don't get me wrong. Fight and free French, got it. But no offense, they got skin in the game. It's their deal. Not our deal, but we're there. We're there. We're there. And now again, you got Conservative Inc. with the pom-poms out, with the 40 billion and the 20 billion, and they're pushing them on, and escalation, escalation, escalation. And now you're seeing all the bettors in Europe saying, hey, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's going to cost, the air conditioning is going to get high here. Maybe we got walked into this and we screwed up. But yeah, we screwed up. Yeah, you screwed up. Let's go ask the dead women and children in Ukraine and get their voices. Let's have their vote right now. Would they be for escalation or de-escalation? I think they would say, why are we doing this? Yes, the Russians are bad guys, but what can we do here?